So far in this lesson, we've talked about filling with solid colors and we've talked about filling with patterns. Let's talk about gradient fills. Gradients are easy to understand. We've all seen them. They're two or more colors that over distance blend. A gradient. Illustrator will do radial and it will do linear gradients. We have a lot to choose from if that's how you want to do it. You click this button right here in the Swatches palette and you go down to gradients, and there are literally hundreds of gradients here for you. I don't think you're as interested in those as much as you're interested in making one. We may have hundreds, but there's always one you don't have. So let's talk about making our own. But if you do want to apply them, we do have a few up here that come default, and you select the object and click the button. That's about it. It's a very easy thing to do. Let's make our own. I'm assuming you have the painting workspace open, and we are clicking this button right here, which is gradients, and we are tearing the gradient panel out. Give it a little bit of prominence. If for whatever reason, and you probably will, but if for whatever reason you don't see all these wonderful options, it's because that's happened. You need to click this button and go into Show Options. I've said this before, and I will say it again. There are a wealth of options hidden under some of the panels in Adobe Illustrator, and all you have to do is click that button to get to them. We've got our rectangle selected. We want a linear gradient. We click here, go linear. We'll get a standard black on the left, white on the right gradient that's linear. This button right here allows me to change the angle of the linear gradient. And if you want to take that back to 0, it'll take it back to the way it was. This button reverses it if I want to do that. This button is for radials. We're not there yet. Here's our gradient down here. Almost every program that I know of, whether it's Adobe or not, functions with gradients about the same way. This gradient slider here, I actually call those crayons, but that's a gradient slider, is the black color going off to the white color. That diamond is where they mix. So if I pull it this way or that way, I'm changing the mix or the relationship between the black and the white, which of course is what's going on here with this number. I can change it that way too. You want exactly 50? Sometimes it's easier to type the number in, to be honest with you. So we're back to where we were. Opacity, love that option. If I select one of these crayons, one of these gradient sliders, I can change its opacity. Do you realize how much control you have on that? In a lesson, a couple up the road, I'm going to show you how to make some fantastic vignettes using that opacity setting on a gradient. But that's for another lesson a little bit later. What's left to do here? A lot. I don't like black to white. I want yellow to white. I want red to white. I want something else. So click the one you want to change. Click that gradient slider. It selects it. But don't just come up here and click a color, because it's going to assume you want to fill it with that color. That's what undo is for. Make sure you have it selected. Come up here, hold the Alt key down. That's option on a Mac. And it will indeed honor your request to only change the gradient slider. So now we have a yellow to white. Maybe you want to add another color. No problem. Come down here and click anywhere on that line where you want to insert the color, knowing full well you can move it later. Whatever is here is what that gradient slider is right now in terms of its color. But again, if we hold the Alt key down and come up here, we can change it to another color. We don't like white on the end. Select that one, change it to something else. We can go real wonky, real fast on this. We can change the relationship of the crayons, the gradient sliders, to each other. We can change the mix of the two by moving these, or you can do it by the location button down here. If you don't want to wear this anymore and you go, why'd I put that blue in the middle? You can select it and just click the delete button over here. Now you will notice you can't delete anything else because you have to have at least two colors in a gradient. But notice how accurately this is mixing. Look at the middle. That's green. We've got a blue and a yellow. Blue and a yellow mixed together make green. So it's not just making one color fade into the other. It actually is blending those colors together. We've made a linear gradient and we really like it and we want to keep it forever. Come up to your Swatches palette, click the New button. The Swatch button for New knows the difference between a fill color and a gradient. Give it a name, Cool Gradient. The reason that these aren't available is because you're dealing with more than one color over here. Click OK. You just made a new gradient. What about radials? About the same thing. If we select this one down here and we go to radial, We could apply the same color if we wanted to. We could add more crayons if we wanted to. We can do anything we want to this item. We can also change now if we choose. By clicking here is changing the roundness. So if I go to say 50%, as you can see it begins making it more into an oval. Again, if you want to save this one, all you have to do is click that button and give it a name. And now you got another one right after another. Gradients are relatively easy to make. They're not that difficult. But one of the things that we're not going to handle yet, I want to talk about later, is that fantastic opacity setting. Because like I said, if you make a color invisible, things underneath it are going to come through, and it's a great one for making vignettes in Adobe Illustrator. So stick around for that one, but that's a way off.